بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت تجعل الحزن سهلا إذا شئت آمين. Okay, so inshallah today we'll be starting with Surat al-Inshiqaq. Just as a review quickly from last, or just a couple of days ago actually, the ending of Mutaffifin we discussed from surah number or ayah number 18 until the end pretty much. يلا إن كتاب الأبرار لفي عليين. So after discussing the state that the Fujjar will be in, well, they'll be in the Sijjin, this makan dayq, this very constricted place, and they'll be basically held there as prisoners. Then Allah Ta'ala describes the al-abrar, the virtuous, the righteous, when they will be in the Illiyin. And the Illiyin, as we mentioned, has a couple of different opinions regarding exactly what it is, which we won't go into right now. وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا عِلِّيُّونَ كِتَابٌ مَرْقُومٌ يَشْهَدُهُ الْمُقَرَّبُونَ. So if we take the opinion that it's a place, then we're saying that the Kitab al-Marqum, this inscribed roster, this ledger, has all the names and all the names and all the a'mal of these righteous people, of these abrar. يشهدوه المقربون, the people that the individuals that are close, that have been brought close, muqarrab, they will witness this. Yani the angels and the other abrar, they'll all be witnesses to each other on the day of judgment. إن الأبرار لفي نعيم على الأرائك ينظرون, that these virtuous individuals shall be in na'im, completely engulfed and surrounded in bliss, and they shall be على الأرائك ينظرون, that they'll be reclining on their couches, on their sofas, ينظرون, looking around at the different ni'am. تعرف في وجوههم نظرة النعيم. تعرف. So actually I don't think I mentioned this last week or a couple of days ago, that تعرف, this is referring to Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. You will be able to recognize في وجوههم نظرة النعيم, that you, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, will see on their faces this freshness, this happiness due to the an-na'im. So this is a proof that may Allah Ta'ala grant us this, that these individuals will be able to will be blessed with the company of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because I mean, if he's able to see their faces, then that means, I mean, he has to be in like a certain distance, right? So inshallah will be this. So it means that they'll be in the presence of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. يسقون من الرحيق المختوم, for them, they'll be poured for them from the rahiq makhtum, this amazing wine that has been sealed off. ختامه misk, its seal is like musk, smell very fragrant. وفي ذلك فليتنافس المتنافسون, and this is what you should compete in, as opposed to business and worldly affairs and all these things that we're so accustomed to trying to one up each other in. It is these ni'am, it's this na'im, it's this jannah that Allah Ta'ala has promised us. It's the akhirah, really, that's what we should be competing for. وَمِزَاجُهُ مِن تَسْنِيمٍ, وَمِزَاجُ of the rahiq, it's what's been mixed with it, min tasneem. There's like a certain, how we make like Kool-Aid, you put the powder in the drink, then it's kind of like that. That's been mixed and it's been dissolved in there. Min tasneem. What is tasneem? عَيْنًا يَشْرَبُ بِهَا الْمُقَرَّبُونَ. It's a spring that the muqarrabun drink from. So this is showing the tafawut al-darajat, that there's a difference in the virtue of certain individuals, even in Jannah. Actually, there's even there's a narration in Mishkat, Tirmizi, and other places that's, although there's going to be darajat and tafawut in the darajat within the people of Jannah, there won't be any jealousy or any sort of hatred or animosity that builds within the hearts. Rather, Allah Ta'ala will kind of like make it seem to that person at the lower level that, he's also like has something just as good. مزاجه من تسنيم عينا يشرب بها المقربون. So the muqarrabun here, they have complete access to this ayn of tasneem. They have complete access to this spring of this amazing tasneem, whereas the abrar, they're just like a small mixture in their drink. إن الذين أجرموا كانوا من الذين آمنوا يضحكون إذا مروا بهم يتغامزون, that indeed those individuals who transgressed and they sinned, كانوا من الذين آمنوا يضحكون, they used to laugh at the believers. وإذا مروا بهم يتغامزون, and when they would pass by these believers, they would they would roll their eyes, they would make gestures with their eyes. يتغامزون غمز, they would make gestures with their eyes. وإذا انقلبوا إلى أهلهم انقلبوا فكهين, when they would go back to their family, they would turn back to their families, they would turn back very, very happy. Fakihin, it's like they would have a taste of fruit and they would just be mutaladhidin. They'd be super excited and super proud of what they of the this even like this slight harm that they were able to cause to the Muslims. وَإِذَا رَأَوْهُمْ قَالُوا إِنَّ هَؤُلَاءِ لَضَالُونَ. When these disbelievers, when they would see the believers, وَإِذَا رَأَوْا الْكُفَّارَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ, that when these disbelievers would see the believers, they would say, قَالُوا إِنَّ هَؤُلَاءِ لَضَالُونَ. These believers, man, they're just so lost. They are so lost. وَمَا أُرْسِلُوا عَلَيْهِمْ حَافِظِينَ. But Allah Ta'ala says that you, O kuffar, وَمَا أُرْسِلُوا, referring to the kafirin, alayhim, have not been sent upon them, referring to the Muslims, hafizin, as like caretakers. It's not your responsibility to worry about them. Why are you making statements such as this? فَالْيَوْمَ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مِنَ الْكُفَّارِ يَضْحَكُونَ. And on that day, الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, the people who believe shall be laughing at the kuffar. So we see a complete shift. عَلَى الْأَرَائِكِ يَنْظُرُونَ. They'll be again reclining on their sofas, on their benches, couches, however you want to translate it. ينظرون, looking at the kuffar. هل ثوب الكفار ما كانوا يفعلون. Have these kuffar been given their thawab? Thawab is used for a good reward. They've been given like a good payment for something good that they did. The sort of sarcasm that's being used here. هل ثوب الكفار ما كانوا يفعلون. Due to that which they would do. Now, Surah Inshiqaq. Gigi. It's used, the word is tahakkum. So the question, let me just repeat the question because I have the headphones in. So the question was, what's like the verb or the word that's used for this sarcasm? Basically, how do you say sarcasm? And okay, so that's called tahakkum. Taha, kaf, meme, excuse me. Taha, soft ha, kaf and meme. Tahakkum. Like a sort of, or even like tawbih is another one that you'll see this, I think it's coming up in our surah Inshiqaq as well, where فبشرهم بعذاب أليم at the end of Surah Inshiqaq. So give them the good news of the painful punishment. This is قال في التسهيل ووضع البشارة في موضع الإنذار تحكم بالكفار. That this to use the word bashirhum, to use the word give them the good news that of the adab alim, in place of rather instead of good news it should be, instead of bushra it should be nadir. What is it? Bashira wa Nadira, right? Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was sent as Bashira wa Nadira. He was sent as the one that gives the good news as well as the one that warns, right? How, like both the good and the bad side, quote unquote. So the usage of the word of the Bashara, Bashirhum, in the place of fi mawdi' al-inzar, in the place of really this is actually a warning of the adab al-alim, is tahakkum bil kuffar. It's like a sort of sarcastic remark against these kuffar. Tawbih would be more like putting down and looking down and like as a preventative uh, wording to try to sway these people away from what they're doing. Where was it? فما لهم لا يؤمنون. استفهام يقصد به التوبيخ، أي فما لهؤلاء المشركين لا يؤمنون بالله ولا يصدقون بالبعث بعد الموت بعد وضوح دلائل وقيام البراهين على وقوعه. فما لهم لا يؤمنون. Why don't they believe? استفهام. So this is a question. What's meant by it is tawbih, because Allah Ta'ala is saying that why do these mushrikeen, why do they not believe in Allah Ta'ala? Why do they not affirm that there's going to be resurrection after their death, even after we just gave all these dala'il and all these proofs for these questions and this attitude that they have? Which brings me to my next point. All right, does that clear that up? Okay. So the next point is that إِذَا السَّمَاءُ انشَقَّتْ, yes, the beginning of the next surah, inshallah. So we see in this surah, it's a combination or a conclusion of the three previous surahs. Or it's similar to the previous surahs. As we can see, Surah Takwir, إِذَا الشَّمْسُ كُوِّرَتْ, Surah Infitar, إِذَا السَّمَاءُ انفطرت, and now we have إِذَا السَّمَاءُ انشَقَّتْ. They have a very similar style, just in terms of the ayat, like like they all sound very similar, right? Which is why, when you're a kid trying to memorize 30th, you're in Maktab, you're in like his prep or whatever, these surahs just get really, really confusing because of how similar the wordings are. And they're also very, very similar in content because all these surahs are talking about إِذَا السَّمَاءُ انشَقَّتْ and إِذَا الشَّمْسُ كُوِّرَتْ, إِذَا السَّمَاءُ انفطرت. They're talking about how there's going to be chaos in the cosmos on the Day of Judgment. So this surah is a culmination of many of the previous surahs, actually, not just those specific ones that it sounds similar to, but actually a lot of the surahs are going to be concluded almost right here. So, and interestingly, This surah itself actually discusses things which develop in stages and then they come to their conclusion. So this surah is a conclusion for many of the previous surahs, like we said, and the content, the verses, what they talk about is how the sama and the and the moon and the stars and the night and the day, they also come to a conclusion, which we'll see what's the connection between all of this, inshallah, as we go through the surah. Now, because Allah Ta'ala has, another thing that we should be aware of is that because Allah Ta'ala has discussed these concepts before, we, like I said, I don't want to say there's nothing new here, but because like we've been talking about these things for like the last quarter of a para, Allah Ta'ala is going to expect from us to fill in the blanks, because as we should be able to figure out these things ourselves. So as for the breakdown of the surah, we can split it up into four, maybe five things or yeah, four things pretty much. The ayah 1 to 5, إذا السماء انشقت until وأذنت لربها وحقت. These discuss the events of Qiyamah. Number ayah 6 to 15, these discuss the current journey of a human being. Or not current, but just the journey of a human being. Ayah 16 to 19, the gradual progression of nature. And ayah 20 to 25 is a warning for the kuffar and things related to that. Okay, so to begin, ayah number 1, إذا السماء انشقت. Would anyone like to volunteer to translate, or okay, I can go for it, inshallah. So ayah number 1, إذا السماء انشقت. So when the sky, إذا السماء انشقت. Okay, so now we're familiar, like we said, with this construction, right? إذا الشمس كورت, إذا السماء انفطرت. We've seen this already in two previous surahs. So إذا, when we see إذا, we know that this is a shart. That when X happens, is that a complete sentence? When X happens, full stop. No, right? It has to be when X happens, then Y happens, or then okay, if X happens, Y happens. This, or you can't just say إذا السماء انشقت. You can't just say if X or when X happens and then full stop, nothing after that. But like we said, Allah Ta'ala is expecting us to fill in the blank, and we'll see that right in just a bit. That when إذا السماء انشقت, when the sky is completely torn up, when it's completely destroyed, when it's completely done for, it's completely annihilated. إذا السماء انشقت. No. Okay, inshiqaq, to be torn completely. Other places that this ayah actually, that this same word comes, says Allah Ta'ala says اقتربت الساعة وانشق القمر, that when the hour come close and the moon is also, there's inshiqaq then of the moon where it's completely destroyed. Allah Ta'ala also says ثم شققنا الأرض شقا. That's Surah Abasa, I believe we went over this already. So this inshiqaq, shaq, is used for things that we don't normally associate shaq for. That you don't know. You would think that something fragile, something frail, like paper, like cloth, or these small things are things that inshiqaq is done of. But Allah Ta'ala is showing us the height, the power of His, that He could do, that the sky is just like a piece of cloth for Him as well. The moon is just like a it's very, very easy for Allah Ta'ala to manifest His amazing and overwhelming qudra on all of these things. So additionally, regarding the sky, we've already seen quite a bit of ayat in the previous surahs that talk about it. In Surah Naba, وَفُتِحَتِ السَّمَاءُ فَكَانَتْ أَبْوَابًا, that we see that, again, like we said, the theme of this surah is progression. It's showing how, just like how the surah itself is like the conclusion of the journey of these past couple of surahs, now we're going to see in these ayat, it's going to show also that there is a conclusion to all of these different topics that we've been talking about. So now, in the beginning, Surah Naba, وَفُتِحَتِ السَّمَاءُ فَكَانَتْ أَبْوَابًا, that the sky will be open like doors. Can you close the door? Yeah, you can close the door. Okay, that's stage one. After that, Allah Ta'ala says, إِذَا السَّمَاءُ كُشِطَتْ وَإِذَا السَّمَاءُ كُشِطَتْ, when the sky starts to be skinned. Or like how you might peel an orange, you start skinning it, right? You don't just, not like it all comes off at once. You take one portion, and then you take another portion, you take it slowly, you take portion by portion, you're able to peel it back. Even if you like take like a peel off an orange, you can almost, put it back to its original spot. Although there's going to still be those cracks and whatnot, you can still keep it there. At least you could put it back to where it was. Allah Ta'ala also said, وَإِذَا السَّمَاءُ فَطَرَتْ, when the sky is torn. Like when we said in fitar, we said is when it's torn, like when you rip a sheet, you can sew a sheet back together. But when you say إِذَا السَّمَاءُ انشَقَّتْ, there's no going back. This is showing, so like we said, this is showing the conclusion of this topic of what's going to happen to the sky. And Allah Ta'ala beautifully, He puts this as the last one to mention. إِذَا السَّمَاءُ انشَقَّتْ, when the sky is going to be completely torn to shreds. There's no going back from this. This is it. It's irreversible, as opposed to like the doors or like being able to sew back the cloth and those things. Okay. إذا السماء انشقت وأذنت لربها وحقت. So وأذنت referring to the sama, that وأذنت لربها وحقت. So as you all know, you guys mashallah have studied your nahu, your sarf and all that stuff, that this the masdar is the like the root of the word, right? So if sorry, let me just. So verbs have masadir, they have their masdar, and depending on the masdar, the meaning will change. So for example, maybe you guys have heard this riddle. The man qala Allah faqad kafar. Oh, you guys have heard of it? Oh man, could you explain it please, since you've heard of it? Anyone else? Man qala Allah. Okay, what do we normally think? Man qala, whoever says qala. Yeah. Yes, exactly. Okay. So normally when we see this, especially like I remember someone told me this in like my first month of first year. So then they were just trying to play a joke on me, and I was just like, okay. So man qala, whoever says qala, yep, from qawl, to say something like qawl. Okay, you guys know what qawl is. Qala Allah. This is qal from qaylula. Qala yaqilu. So this is what would say that man qala, whoever says qala Allah, whoever says Allah Ta'ala has taken a qaylula, a siesta, Allah Ta'ala has taken a short nap, faqad kafar, then he has committed kufr. This is not saying man qala Allah, this qala Allah, the qala being for, again, from qawl. This is qala from qaylula. So now, again, so the point I was trying to make, the different if it's the masdar will have a huge impact on the verb, because that's where it's coming from. So what adhinat could come from two different masdars. The first being adhinat from adhan, to listen, which is istima', to listen to something, or you from sama', okay, so which is what we'll be just taking here, and that's how we'll translate it. And or it could be from idhin, for permission. Okay, so now it listened, the sky listened to its Lord, li rabbiha, to her Lord. Now sama, ard, and shams as well, if I'm not mistaken. A lot of these celestial bodies, they're all referred to as mu'annath. Okay, so although they don't have the alamat tathnith, then they still treat it as mu'annath. So that's why I said wa'adhinat li rabbiha. Adhinat for feminine, and li rabbiha, its Lord, referring to the sama. Huqqat wa huqqat. So when the sama listened to her Lord, to its Lord, wa huqqat, and it fulfilled its destiny. It fulfilled its right. It fulfilled its purpose. Okay, so now what is this talking about? So it's showing that. Okay, so when we say wahuqqat, it's like you build a house. If you were to build, you don't just build a house just to build a house, right? You would build a house for the purpose of living in it. So the purpose, so that you could so that you could use it for its purpose, which is to harbor yourself, to shelter yourself. So when Allah Ta'ala says that this وَأَذِنَتْ لِرَبِّهَا وَحُقَّتْ, or even in a similar ayah, ثُمَّ اسْتَوَى إِلَى السَّمَاءِ وَهِيَ دُخَانٌ فَقَالَ لَهَا وَلِلْأَرْضِ ائْتِيَا طَوْعًا أَوْ كَرْهًا. That when Allah Ta'ala, He's speaking to the sky and the earth, and He says, "Come forth, whether it be taw'an or karha, whether it be obediently or not, when you're not happy about it." So now, what is this showing? It's showing that this mighty sky, where Allah Ta'ala says, "Antum ashaddu khalqan am as-sama' banaha," that we've discussed in Surah Nazi'at, that are you more of a difficult creation, or is this amazing sky that we've built over your heads? That this mighty sky that is so much more greater than you. This sky is obedient to me. So how is it that, and as we've seen in the previous surah about the mu'tad and the athim and all these things, the sinner, how is it that the sinner is not obedient to Allah Ta'ala? And then we see that again with the وَإِذَا الْأَرْضُ مُدَّتْ and we'll see that there. وَإِذَا الْأَرْضُ مُدَّتْ, ayat number 3. And when the earth is muddat, when it is stretched out, when it is laid out flat completely. Now there's a narration that goes with this. Let me just open it up real quickly, one sec. That regarding وَإِذَا الْأَرْضُ مُدَّتْ. Where is it at? Okay. حدثنا الثوري عن علي بن حسين النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال إذا كان يوم القيامة مد الله الأرض مد الأديم. That when the day of Qiyamah happens, Allah Ta'ala will stretch out the earth just like how a piece of leather is stretched, just like how you might stretch out the cloth or something. حتى لا يكون لبشر من الناس إلا موضع قدميه فأكون أول من يدعى. So that then he says that on the plane, on the mahshar, on the plane that we'll all be standing on, they'll after everyone's been raised up from their graves, he says that there's not like the place that you're standing, that's literally the only space. Every single person, there's only enough space on the mahshar, on this area that will be gathered, that you can't even fit another person in there. Literally, where everyone's standing, they won't be able to move their feet. They'll just be standing like concrete in their spots. And I'll be the first one to be called upon. As we've discussed before, إِلَّا مَنْ أَذِنَ لَهُ الرَّحْمَنُ وَقَالَ صَوَابًا. وَجِبْرِيلُ عَنْ يَمِينِ الرَّحْمَنِ. And Jibreel alayhi salam will be at the right of ar-Rahman, which is interesting because we see that Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, we're talking about what's going to happen when people are resurrected on the Day of Judgment. It's a very scary day. It's a very frightful day. It's like we've been discussing for like the last quarter of a part, right? But what Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam says, "An yamin ar-Rahman," that he describes Allah Ta'ala as ar-Rahman, because Allah Ta'ala on this day will shower His mercy, and He will show His mercy to certain individuals. And of course, who's the first individual that He's going to be shown mercy is Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Wallahi ma ra'ahu qablaha. And he says that Jibreel alayhi salam hasn't seen Allah Ta'ala before this. فأقول يا ربي إن هذا أخبرني أنك أرسلته إلي. That he says that, oh my Lord, indeed this Jibreel alayhi salam has informed me that you're the one who sent him to me. And then فيقول الله عز وجل صدق ثم أشفع. Then I will, he said Allah Ta'ala will testify to what Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam says, and then the shafa'a will start. And I think I sent that that longer narration regarding the maqam mahmud and those things. So that's pretty much, that's how this narration ends. So وَإِذَا الْأَرْضُ مُدَّتْ. Anyways, back to the surah. وَإِذَا الْأَرْضُ مُدَّتْ, when the earth is laid flat, like how you stretch out a piece of cloth or like leather. وَأَلْقَتْ مَا فِيهَا وَتَخَلَّتْ. Okay, and sorry. وَأَلْقَتْ مَا فِيهَا وَتَخَلَّتْ, and it throws out. أَلْقَى يُلْقِي إِلْقَاء from laqiya, from lam qafiyah. Where's my pencil? Okay, so laqiya means to meet. Alqa means to throw, to almost like to make someone meet something. You're throwing something to them, right? Allah Ta'ala also says, فَأَلْقَى عَصَاهُ فَإِذَا هِيَ ثُعْبَانٌ مُبِينٌ. When Musa alayhi salam, when he's in front of Fir'aun and the magicians, he throws his staff and it turns into the clearest serpent. And وَأَلْقَتْ مَا فِيهَا, when the earth will begin to throw what is in it. So what is this referring to? Well, this is referring to, as we've discussed, وَإِذَا الْقُبُورُ بُعْثِرَتْ, when the graves have been turned topsy-turvy, when they're completely flipped over and their contents are emptied and for all to see. And this is the dominant opinion. This is also referred to وَأَخْرَجَتِ الْأَرْضُ أَثْقَالَهَا, that the earth will take out its athqal, referring to the kunuz, to the treasures, to like the different gold and the minerals and all these things that people have been chasing after. It will throw those out too. Or it could be both as well. وَأَلْقَتْ مَا فِيهَا. Ma is am, so it could be both for sure. وَتَخَلَّتْ, and it will become emptied. From تخلت from khaf, lam, ya, which is the masdar being khalwa, which is like solitude. So takhalli is to empty out something entirely. So for example, when a mother, when she delivers her baby, a pregnant mother delivers her child, then she's doing it's like وَتَخَلَّتْ, she's completely emptied her womb out. So it's almost as if, because this verb is being used, just like how it's used for like a mother who's getting who the baby is coming out of, it's almost as if, because this pregnant earth, it's free, it's happy, it's happy to get rid of the burden of carrying the sinners. Just like how a mother is happy that she's done with the burden of pregnancy. Of course, the baby is not a burden, but the pregnancy, of course, is difficult, as Allah Taala says, "حملته أمه كرها ووضعته كرها." That's it's a very difficult thing for a woman. So now it's like almost like the earth is happy to get rid of these sinners that it's been harboring. وأذنت لربها وحقت. And again, the earth it listens to its Lord and it fulfilled its destiny. So now, as I was mentioning before, that there is when you say a when statement, there has to be a then, right? When you say when X happens, then Y will happen. But we see that that is not here. There's no وَأَذِنَتْ لِرَبِّهَا وَحُقَّتْ and عَلِمَتْ نَفْسٌ مَا أَحْضَرَتْ عَلِمَتْ نَفْسٌ مَا قَدَّمَتْ وَأَخَّرَتْ. This, as we saw in the previous surahs. Why? As we said, Allah Ta'ala is expecting us to now know what we're expected to know what's the jawab to this. Although there's also difference of opinion in this as well. Others scholars they mentioned that it could possibly be that the next ayah is the jawab for the shart that's been laid out in the first 5 ayats. Ayah number 6 could possibly be a jawab, or as well as ayah number 19. وَتَرْكَبُنَّ طَبَقًا عَنْ طَبَقٍ. But and also those keep it in line with the central theme that we've been discussing. That this is like the conclusion of what's been discussed before. So where are we at? Now, number 6, Allah Ta'ala says, يَا أَيُّهَا الْإِنسَانِ مَا غَرَّكَ بِرَبِّكَ الْكَرِيمِ. يَا أَيُّهَا الْإِنسَانِ ما Oh, sorry. يا أيها الإنسان إنك كادح. My fault. يا أيها الإنسان إنك كادح إلى ربك كدحا فملاقي. I was going to say that this is like similar to the previous ayah that we saw. يا أيها الإنسان ما غرك بربك الكريم. So this ayah, what does this mean? يا أيها الإنسان, O mankind, O all of mankind. إنك كادح. You are working, you're toiling, you're in a effort. كدح, you're exerting yourself. إنك كادح إلى ربك, towards your Lord. كدحا, كدحا, the maful mutlaq being brought here for ta'kid. A strong toil, well, it could go both ways depending on the next thing, but it's a strong toil, a very difficult toil that you're going through, a work that you're putting in. فملاقي, and you will meet it. So what is this ha lamir referring to? It could be two different things. It could be you're doing all this work towards your Lord, فملاقيه, and you will meet your Lord. Or it could be referring to فملاقي كدحك, that you will meet your kadah, that you'll meet the work that you've been putting in. So meaning that you'll meet your Rabb or you'll meet your a'mal. And for the first, we see that Allah Ta'ala in different places, like we've already seen that alimat nafsum ma ahdarat, that the person will know what he's brought forth for himself from the dunya to the akhirah. Alimat nafsum ma qaddamat wa akharat, same. وَوَجَدُوا مَا عَمِلُوا حَاضِرًا وَوَجَدُوا مَا عَمِلُوا حَاضِرًا, sorry, that they will find what they used to do present in front of them. So that's for the first meaning. And of course, the person will also be, as for the second opinion, that مُلَاقِي رَبَّهُم, that they'll meet their Lord. That's like ma'aloom as well. So what do we see here? كدح. صابوني. Let's see what صابوني says. So الكدح الجد والاجتهاد وجهد النفس في العمل. Okay, we said that. That's just very, very difficult, strong, and constant working towards action. So we also see here that there is kadih. Arslan, if you'd like to tell us what's the fa'ida of bringing an ism fa'il as opposed to a fi'il. جي الاسم فاعل يفيد الاستمرار. يفيد, it gives the benefit of استمرار. It gives the benefit of something being continuous, just constantly happening, constantly happening. So يا أيها الإنسان إنك كادح, we are in a constant work. That this entire life for us is work. That whether literally every other thing in life, whether it's work, it's our school, you have your days off from work, you have your weekends, you have your whatever your off days are for school, winter break, spring break, summer break, all these different things. But there is no break from كادح إلى ربك. And again, this is another concept of نحو that we discussed. تقديم ما حقه تأخير يفيد الحصر. That this entire life is what? It's just working towards Allah Ta'ala, فملاقيه, and what we're going to see on the Day of Judgment from Him. So this is again showing the importance of priorities in our life. That we're on this conveyor belt that's moving, whether we like it or not. And after explaining the final cause, the destiny and the purpose of the sky and the earth, they're just their whole purpose of being created, that what they were waiting for from the Lord was for the inshiqaq of the sama. What the ard was waiting for was to be completely flattened out and stretched out, and it was waiting for to be commanded to throw out what it carried. It was just waiting it was hoping, it was longing that Allah Ta'ala commanded to do something, because there's a longing from the sama and the ard to fulfill the commandment of their Lord. So we should also think about what's our final cause. What's our huqqat? What's our thing that we're do we have the same attitude of even the sama and the ard, that that although it's a command that they've been given, they're happy to fulfill the command, of course. Do we have that same attitude towards towards what Allah Ta'ala has commanded us towards? Anyways, فَأَمَّا مَنْ أُوتِيَ كِتَابَهُ بِيَمِينِهِ. Line number 7. فَأَمَّا مَنْ أُوتِيَ. Again, the Mahdi is being brought to show the certainty. The one who has been given his book in his right hand. As for the one who has been given the book in his right hand, then okay, a couple things about this is a passage from Surat al-Haqqa which discusses this in further detail, which inshallah we can read now. How do I zoom out from this? Move this over. Sorry, one sec. Okay. Oh, actually, it's interesting is that when Surah Haqqa itself also, وَانْشَقَّتِ السَّمَاءُ فَهِيَ يَوْمَئِذٍ وَاهِيَةٌ. Inshiqaq of the sama is brought again. So you see, actually, there's a very when it comes to themes in the Quran, there's a very consistent verb usage, or like a that the words are also similar throughout too, to keep the consistency up. وَانْشَقَّتِ السَّمَاءُ فَهِيَ يَوْمَئِذٍ وَاهِيَةٌ. When the sky will be torn and it's obliterated, فَهِيَ يَوْمَئِذٍ وَاهِيَةٌ. It will be on that day it will be very frail. وَالْمَلَكُ عَلَى أَرْجَائِهَا وَيَحْمِلُ عَرْشَ رَبِّكَ فَوْقَهُمْ يَوْمَئِذٍ ثَمَانِيَةٌ. And the angels will be at its sides on that day. They'll carry the arsh, that they'll be on that day, 8 mighty angels will bear the throne of Allah Ta'ala above them. يَوْمَئِذٍ تُعْرَضُونَ لَا تَخْفَى مِنْكُمْ خَافِيَةٌ. You will then be presented before Allah Ta'ala for judgment, and none of your secrets will stay hidden. فَأَمَّا مَنْ أُوتِيَ كِتَابَهُ بِيَمِينِهِ. As for the one who has been given the book in his right hand, فَيَقُولُ هَا أُمُقْرَأُ كِتَابِيَ. He will cry out happily, Ha umuqra'u kitabiya. Oh, he'd be like very, very excited. He'd say, everyone, please, please come read my book. Inni ظننت أني ملاق حسابي. I surely thought that I will be facing a terrible reckoning, that I would be, there's like a nervousness in what he's saying, that he's like, of course, now, like, so what is it showing? That even the people that are going to Jannah, they have sins in their ledger too, right? Not all, of course, but there are people that Allah Ta'ala will enter into Jannah that even though they have sinned, and even though they're going to be like nervous, and they're going to be scared out of their mind standing in front of Allah Ta'ala will bless them by granting them their book in their right hand. إِنِّي ظَنَنْتُ أَنِّي مُلَاقٍ حِسَابِيَ فَهُوَ فِي عِيشَةٍ رَاضِيَةٍ. That individual shall be in a life of bliss, a happy life, فِي جَنَّةٍ عَالِيَةٍ, in these elevated gardens, in these elevated levels of paradise, قُطُوفُهَا دَانِيَةٍ, whose fruits are on the trees are very low hanging. And it will be said to them, eat and drink joyfully, due to that which you did in the past days. And then وَأَمَّا مَنْ أُوتِيَ كِتَابَهُ بِشِمَالِهِ, which we'll discuss in a little bit. So Surah Haqqa is number 19 to 24. They describe this event in more detail. فأما من أوتي كتابه بيمينه فسوف يحاسب حسابا يسيرا. Okay. So ayah number is that? Ayah number 8. So فسوف يحاسب حسابا يسيرا. That this individual will have a easy reckoning. He will be yuhasa will be like the audit. It will be very, very easy for him. فسوف يحاسب حسابا يسيرا. Regarding this, there's quite a few different narrations. Actually, just in the Hashia of Safwan, page 522, it says that المراد بالحساب اليسير في الآية هو العرض لما روي أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال من حوسب عذب. That Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, regarding this narration, regarding this concept about hisab and people being questioned and for their deeds, and Allah Ta'ala going through their deeds like one by one, what does he say? He says that عن عائشة قالت قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم من حوسب يوم القيامة عذب. That he who is taken to account on the day of resurrection for his deeds is in fact put to torment. Of course, going through your deeds with Allah Ta'ala, that's going to be a very, very scary position to be in. فقلت أليس قد قال الله عز وجل فسوف يحاسب حسابا يسيرا. And so Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, she says that has not Allah Ta'ala said that the ayah فسوف يحاسب حسابا يسيرا, he will be made subject to an easy reckoning. Then Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam replied فقال ليس ذاك الحساب إنما ذاك العرض. This is not hisab. The Allah Ta'ala, this is not a this is referring to the good person, right? فَأَمَّا مَنْ أُوتِيَ كِتَابَهُ بِيَمِينِهِ فَسَوْفَ يُحَاسَبُ حِسَابًا يَسِيرًا. That person will, this is an ard, that Allah Ta'ala will basically just like go through the, I don't want to say like quote unquote go through the formality of just going through that person's a'mal, but Allah Ta'ala would not question him for it. Like a person, they turn in like a couple of our Alam course exams. You do your exam and you turn it into the teacher. They'll grade it like right there on the spot. And there's some things that you kind of guessed on, or that you could have worded better. Maybe this weren't with full detail. But what does the teacher do out of his grace, out of his kindness? He just kind of passes by them. He doesn't put that red. He doesn't use his red pen to put that big red mark, or write a little comment or note or whatever. So similarly, Allah Ta'ala will just go through the skim through the a'mal of this individual, even though there's sins in there as well, and He won't take him to task for that thing. But that individual who Allah Ta'ala, scroll going down and down and down, eventually, hey, what's this? What did you do on this day, this night, and what was this? Who are you with? What was this thing that you were eating, drinking, or that once that starts, that's how you know that that's like a sign of the person being put into the adhab. من نوقش الحساب يوم القيامة عذب. The person who starts getting examined, actually, he's like, it's not just a formal procedure to just go through the amal. Once he actually starts getting questioned about his stuff, then that he's gonna continue to be questioned about all of his amal, and Allah Ta'ala will put that individual into the hellfire. Okay, so where were we? Okay, so now one thing I wanted to mention was, I remember reading this, unfortunately, just the thought that I had in my head was, there's Allah Ta'ala describing not just bad people. He's describing the worst of the worst, right? He says, Surah Al-Mutaffifin, الَّذِينَ يُكَذِّبُونَ بِيَوْمِ الدِّينِ. People that belie the message of Allah Ta'ala. They have this attitude of, we don't care about what the revelation is. Me, Mustafa, I don't have this attitude. Alhamdulillah, I believe. I just sin quite often. But, it's not like I'm denying anything. I just know I'm weak. It's not like I have this attitude of الَّذِينَ يُكَذِّبُونَ بِيَوْمِ الدِّينِ وَمَا يُكَذِّبُ بِهِ إِلَّا كُلُّ مُعْتَدٍ أَثِيمٍ. It's not like I'm being mu'tad and athim, and it's not like I'm denying this thing. It's not like I mean, at least I'm Muslim. I could say that as a individual. But we see that. So a person may think that maybe these ayahs don't apply to me. Rather, it's ayahs like these that apply to me. فَسَوْفَ يُحَاسَبُ حِسَابًا يَسِيرًا. And a person just gets super happy that So the reason I'm mentioning this is because this attitude would lead to a certain laziness, which we do not find amongst the Sahaba and the Salaf. There's actually narrations from Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala an, for example. He said that if one of my feet were in Jannah, وَأُخْرَى خَارِجُهَا, and the other one was actually outside of Jannah, ما أمنت مكر الله. I wouldn't be thinking that I've made it. Not even to that extent. Is Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, literally the greatest person after all the prophets, alayhi salatu wassalam. That's the greatest individual that ever walked this earth after all the prophets. Even he's saying that I'm not going to be expecting that I be put into Jannah just because I have one foot in the door. Similarly, Umar bin Khattab radiallahu ta'ala an, he says that Wallahi law nada munadin yawm al-qiyamati, that if he says that by Allah, he's saying an oath, that if there was an oath if there was a caller who called out on the day of judgment, كل الناس في الجنة إلا رجل واحد, that every single individual is entering into Jannah except for one person, لظننت أنه ابن الخطاب. Then Umar radiallahu anhu is saying that if every single person is entering Jannah except for one person, that's the announcement that's been called out on the day of judgment. And except for one person, لَظَنَنْتُ أَنَّهُ ibn al-Khattab, I would surely think that that one individual that's not entering into Jannah is me. That's what Imam radiallahu anhu is saying. And then he also says the opposite. He says that um, if a person if the call was made that um, everyone's entering into the hellfire except for me, except for one person, then he says that I have hope in my Lord that one individual is me. So we see that al-imanu bain al-khawfi wal raja. I'm sure you guys have heard this as well. Iman is bain al-khawf wal raja. It's between fear and hope. That we shouldn't become so complacent, thinking that, oh man, I'm not mu'tad, I'm not afim, I'm not doing tagleeb of the deen, I'm not doing all these disgusting things that Allah Ta'ala is showing that the disbelievers did. What else is there? All these things, all these amal, their attitude, their beliefs, all these things. I don't have any of that stuff. But this is not the attitude that we see that the Sahaba and the Salaf had. Rather, we need to make sure that that we work for it. So if we look at it, even that إِنَّكَ كَادِحٌ إِلَى رَبِّكَ comes first. Then the consequences of that come later. That first we have to actually do the work, just like I was mentioned first in the surah. First we must also do the work. Then, inshallah, if we do the work, then we will فَمُلَاقِيهِ, we'll have a good meeting with Allah Ta'ala. We'll have a good meeting with our a'mal. Okay, I read the hadith. Okay, ayah number 9. Ayah number 9 is وَيَنْقَلِبُ إِلَىٰ أَهْلِهِ مَسْرُورًا, and he will turn to his Lord. He will turn to his family, masrura, very, very happy, delighted, that he'll turn back to them, rejoicing, with the joy on his face. So now we see this in contrast to the previous surah. What does Allah Ta'ala say over there? وَإِذَا انْقَلَبُوا إِلَىٰ أَهْلِهِمُ انْقَلَبُوا فَكِهِينَ. Okay, that when these disbelievers, after making fun of the Muslims and causing harm to them, they would turn back to their families very, very happy. Now, the contrast is being given that on the Day of Judgment, rather, it's going to be the believers on the Day of Judgment who are going to be able to turn back and be very, very happy. Now, once a person, they receive amazing news, you hear that, you find out that you got a great grade on your exam that you've been stressing about, you're able to graduate, you find out you got your dream job, or all these things. Immediately, what does the person do? They call their loved ones, they call their family members. So similarly, this is the same attitude that the people will have on the Day of Judgment. Sabuni says, hey, okay, إنه كان في أهله مسرورا. أي لأنه كان في الدنيا مسرورا مع أهله Oh, sorry. Where is it at? Did I skip anything? Oh, ويرجع إلى أهله في الجنة, that this individual will turn back to his family in paradise, and he'd be extremely happy due to what Allah Ta'ala has given him out of his grace and his karam, out of his mercy and his good gesture. وأما من أوتي كتابه وراء ظهري. Did I skip an ayah? No? Okay, فسوف يحاسب حسابا يسيرا وينقلب إلى. Okay, no, I'm sorry, I'm tweaking. Okay, so what does Allah Ta'ala say regarding our families in Jannah? This is another thing that I wanted to bring up. And let's see. Right, this is it. Nope. Allah Ta'ala says in Surah Al-Tur, والذين آمنوا واتبعتهم ذريتهم بإيمان ألحقنا بهم ذريتهم وما ألتناهم من عملهم من شيء كل امرئ بما كسب رهين. Surah Al-Tur, ayah number 21. Allah Ta'ala says, as for those who believe and whose descendants follow them in faith, and whose وَالَّذِينَ وَاتَّبَعَتْهُمْ ذُرِّيَّتُهُم, their progeny, يعني their children, they also follow them بإيمان, they're also Muslims. أَلْحَقْنَا بِهِمْ ذُرِّيَّتُهُم, we will elevate their descendants to their rank, never discounting anything of the reward of their deeds. وَمَا أَلَتْنَاهُم مِّنْ عَمَلِهِم مِّن شَيْءٍ, there won't be any deficiency that's taken on them. So what is Allah Ta'ala saying? That He's saying that although there's certain people in our families that they may be higher than us in Jannah, or it may be possible that we are on a higher level than certain individuals in our family in Jannah. What is Allah Ta'ala saying? That because you guys are family, He's going to give the lower person the upgrade. Normally in this dunya, what happens? You get the nice, the suite in the hotel, and then you mentioned to the concierge or like the front desk people that I have some we're hoping to have some extra beds or something. They don't offer you another sweet, what do? They bump you down, and then they give you, they give you like two medium sweets as opposed to one good sweet, one bad sweet, if that makes sense. So what is Allah Ta'ala saying? So out of His grace, out of His fadl, out of His rahmah, Allah Ta'ala does actually the opposite. Instead of bumping the person at a high level down, Allah Ta'ala will bring the person at a lower level up. وَمَا أَلَتْنَاهُ مِنْ عَمَلِهِمْ شَيْءٍ مِنْ شَيْءٍ. That Allah, it's not like it's going to cost those individuals anything just because there's a connection between because they're family members. Allah Ta'ala will bump those individuals up. And we also see the importance of doing work on our families. That Yaqub alayhi salam, he had this concern when he is on his deathbed. What did he say? مَا تَعْبُدُونَ مِنْ بَعْدِي. What are you, my children, what are you going to worship after me? قَالُوا نَعْبُدُ إِلَهَكَ وَإِلَهَ آبَائِكَ. That they said that we will worship your Lord and the Lord of your fathers, your forefathers, which is Allah Ta'ala. So there's a concern that we have to have over our families so that we can, inshallah, have this blessing that Allah Ta'ala is giving us of being able to experience the joy of being with our families in Jannah. So I'm kind of just rushing right now. We have about 10 minutes left, and I was hoping to finish the surah, but let me just say one more thing. Allah Ta'ala also says that إِنَّ مِنْ أَزْوَاجِكُمْ وَأَوْلَادِكُمْ عَدُوًّا لَكُمْ فَاحْذَرُوهُم. That in your wife, in your spouses, and in your children, there is a enemy for you. فَاحْذَرُوهُم. So be very cautious. Be on your toes. So what does this mean? How is it possible that our kids and our wives can be like a enemy for us? How could they be something bad for us? Because it's not that happiness, keeping our spouses or our children happy, that's not the goal. Rather, the goal is the attitude and what we should consider real love for our family members is ita'atullah, is the worship of Allah Ta'ala, is obedience of Allah Ta'ala. So although, we kind of get shy when it comes to giving da'wah to our family members about, and because, we just don't want to be made fun of or all these different things that could possibly happen, that cannot be our attitude, because we want to make sure that we, inshallah, get this blessing of being with our family in Jannah. And it's not the attitude that the Anbiya alayhi salatu wasalam had. Even the Nuh alayhi salam and all these different prophets who were married, they gave da'wah to their families, and some of their family members didn't accept. And like the wife of Nuh alayhi salam, the wife of Lut alayhi salam, they didn't accept. But there were individuals that if we give da'wah to, then inshallah they'll be part of this ayah. وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَاتَّبَعَتْهُمْ ذُرِّيَّتُهُم بِإِيمَانٍ أَلْحَقْنَا بِهِمْ ذُرِّيَّتَهُم. That they will all be able to be together in the highest level of Jannah that one of us is on, inshallah. Okay, so 8 minutes and we're halfway through. Can we do it? All right, let's see. No, we're not doing it. Okay, might as well just quality over quantity, right? Okay. فسوف. No, where are we at? ينقلب إلى أهله مسرورا وأما من أوتي كتابه وراء ظهره. So as for the individual who has been given his book behind his back. Yameen. I think, okay, I can forget it. As for the one who hasn't been given his book, the one who's been given his book behind his back. So again, we see that this is in Surah Haqqa. وَأَمَّا مَنْ أُوتِيَ كِتَابَهُ بِشِمَالِهِ فَيَقُولُ يَا لَيْتَنِي لَمْ أُوتَ كِتَابِيَهْ. The one who's been given his book the ones who have been given their book in their left hand, he will cry out, I wish I had not been given my book, my record. وَلَمْ أَدْرِ مَا حِسَابِيَهْ. I wish I didn't know anything about what my the consequences are going to be. يا ليتها كانت القاضية. I wish for death. ما أغنى عني مالية. My wealth will not benefit me now. هلك عني سلطانية. All of my authority has been stripped from me, has been destroyed, and that's not going to help me now either. خذوه فغلوه. It will be said, seize them and shackle them. ثم الجحيم صلوه. And into the Jahim they shall enter. ثم في سلسلة ذرعها 70 ذراعا فاسلكوه. إنه كان لا يؤمن بالله العظيم. Subhanallah. Okay, so those individuals will be shackled up, and they will be given their books, and they're going to be dreadful, and they're going to be crying out on the Day of Judgment that they just know that because they've been given their book in their left hand, that they're going to be punished for it. إنه كان so what was that? فأما من أوتي كتابه وراء ظهره فسوف يدعو ثبورا. He is going to be calling out for thubur. Yad'u thubura. So the difference between that for yad'u means it comes from da'wah, right? Where you call someone specifically. This is different from a nida, which is a general announcement that you just say out loud. It's not directed at any one particular person. It's just for the entire populace. So when you say فَسَوْفَ يَدْعُو ثُبُورًا, it's giving the meaning of that they're literally trying to find the khazanatu Jahannam, that they're trying to grab the attention of these caretakers of Jahannam, these the angels that are guardians over the Jahannam, and they're begging them for يَدْعُو ثُبُورًا, for death. And what does Allah Ta'ala say again? We see in this, where is it at? Allah Ta'ala says, وَإِذَا أُلْقُوا مِنْهَا مَكَانًا ضَيِّقًا مُقَرَّنِينَ دَعَوْا هُنَالِكَ ثُبُورًا. And when we throw them into this constricted place and they're all shackled up, then that's when they're going to be calling for the thubur. They're going to be calling for death, destruction. لَا تَدْعُوا الْيَوْمَ ثُبُورًا وَاحِدًا. And Allah Ta'ala says to them, do not, on this day, do not ask for death. Like, don't even try. ثُبُورًا وَاحِدًا. And you're only asking for it once. You're asking for one death. You think that's enough? وَدْعُوا ثُبُورًا كَثِيرًا. SubhanAllah. Like if you're gonna actually, after doing all the bakwas that you did, the disbelief and the takreeb and your terrible akhlaq and your a'mal and all these things, and you're only asking for one death, you should be wishing for multiple deaths. That Allah Ta'ala wad'u thuburan kathira, subhanallah. فَسَوْفَ يَدْعُو ثُبُورًا وَيَصْلَى سَعِيرًا. He will enter into the sa'ir, the blazing fire, whose flames are reaching super duper high. He will enter into this blazing fire. إِنَّهُ كَانَ فِي أَهْلِهِ مَسْرُورًا. He used to be in this world, في الدنيا, في أهله, as we saw in the previous surah, that he used to be happy. إِنَّهُ ظَنَّ أَن لَن يَحُورَ. He used to be happy with his family, and he used to think أَن لَن يَحُورَ, that he will never return. So حَارَ يَحُورُ, حَور, as Sheikh Sabuni says, يرجع. يحور means يرجع, to return. يقال حار يحور إذا رجع ومنه, that it means to return. And there's this dua that Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam make that we should all try to memorize. أعوذ بك من الحور بعد الكور, that I seek protection from Allah Ta'ala for something to return back to its bad state after it's been made, after Allah Ta'ala's rectified it for me. So this is a dua that people should be reading. Stuff like, for example, a person was sick and then they get better, so they should make this dua, that we make dua that Allah Ta'ala does not put us back into our state of sickness after having given us our shifa, if that makes sense. So الرجوع إلى النقصان بعد الزيادة. So now so حور means that something was messed up, and not only did you fix it, it got even a little bit better than its original state, or at the very least it's been fixed to its original state. So the حور means to take it back to that nuqsan, to that deficient state. إنه ظن أن لن يحور, إنه ظن أن لن يرجع إلى ربي ولن يحيي الله بعد موته للحساب. He thought that he'd never return back to his Lord. He thought that Allah Ta'ala would never give him life after death, and للحساب والجزاء, that he thought he'd never be resurrected and taken into account for. بلى إن ربه كان به بصيرا. Bala means does two things. It negates. It has actually multiple functions, but the main thing is that it negates what's before and it asserts the actual correct thing. So bala, no, that's not the proper thinking. That you thought that Allah yahur, no. Inna rabbahu kana bihi basira. And then it asserts that rather Allah Ta'ala is ever watchful for you. Like we said, that the theme of this surah is what? It's drawing the conclusion with a couple of the other past surahs, right? Inna rabbahu kana bihi basira. And we see here that, Allah Ta'ala just straight up says that I've been watching you this whole time. What does Allah Ta'ala say previously? There's the angels that were watching you. There's the angels that were protecting over you, making sure that they wrote down all your deeds. There was even in the Kitab al-Fujari lafi sijjin, there was this roster that was written where your name was written, and it was kept, and it was backed up. The analogy that we put was there was coders, there's the programmers, which are the angels who are writing down the deeds, and then there's the data servers in the Kitab al-Fujari lafi sijjin, where all the files are backed up and they can never be tampered with. But now what is Allah Ta'ala saying? Just like how the whole thing is concluding, Allah Ta'ala concludes with, for all of that, Bala inna rabbuhu kana bi basira, that is still nothing compared to Allah Ta'ala having witnessed to himself, because Allah Ta'ala knows everything. Fala uqsimu bish-shafaq. Okay, let's stop here. It's like a different, like we said, that this is like the last three. There's four different topics, so this is the third topic. Inshallah, we can just pick up from here. Inshallah, it's already 8:59. Inshallah. Any questions? No? Okay, inshallah. So we ask that Allah Ta'ala allow us to be people to meet the proper qadah on the day of judgment. He make us from the people who receive the book in the right hand. And then we ask that Allah Ta'ala protect us from being those individuals who وَأَمَّا مَنْ أُوتِيَ كِتَابَهُ وَرَاءَ ظَهْرِهِ. I mean, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.